Okay. So it starts off small over here. Okay. I'm looking from, I've never been here before. I'm going south on the canal. I've just come across this structure here. That starts way over here. That structure, I don't know, it looks like a lookout from me. Look, there's a canal up there, and the canal's over there. But just starting out, uh-oh, it's a cemetery now. It must have been one from back then. But to look around here, I don't know. I mean, this brick looks like it could be that time frame. I don't know. I see mortar. I see old mortar. But some of it looks like concrete. See little absurd bricks instead of like authenticated time. Or it's an original. I'll edit back, but this, if this is what I think it is, I'll tell you, if it is what I think it is, it goes from there and it comes all the way around here and two pillars there, all the way across to over there. Now that's where the cemetery is. Now I'm wondering if, okay, so it's a fort. I didn't get it until now, walking up to it, because over here, they must be building something over here to put up here. There's one there, one there, one there, one there. But what gave it away for me at first, I wasn't sure. I'm thinking to myself, these things here, these slots here that I took pictures of before, I thought those slots were, I thought they were for decoration. And that's just where my mind went because I didn't know. And I'm looking at it now. They built these here so they can look out to defend this fort. And this was them. And this is tapered here. It's bigger here than it is down there. So it would be a rifle to shoot. And you have to sit here on this ground and then reload a muzzle, reload your gun again. And then you had that guy, and then that guy, and that guy, and that guy. And that guy, 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 and that guy. Defending their ground for their country. So when you look at it, this way, this side is defending that part of the, any boats coming in from this way. And all the way down there, there is another one of these down there to defend this side. Okay, so as you're coming along here, you had men who would be able to defend this fort. I can see why there's a bench there, so for somebody. But there had to have been something here that protected, maybe gold, or maybe this was like a bank, or why would they build a border? It's not big enough for, it's not like big enough for, maybe it was a small fort. I haven't seen anything on it yet, but maybe it was a small fort to defend. But they had to protect something. Something had to have been here. Was it the men's lives? See, I automatically thought of gold because I thought about money. But back then, it wasn't about money. It was about property. It was about establishing who we are as a nation. And so it was about settling who's settling first. It was a war against England settling, the United States settling. So, no, there shouldn't have been any gold back then if this was original. Because right now, there's the American flag here, which I'm proud to say that it stands, because this is the land where it all began. This is where, I mean, they're memorialized here, and maybe that's original stone. I mean, this path was not original, with the flag there, overseeing the gravestones. But was this stone original? Or was this stone a part of defending this side? Because from this stance you have Delaware River Canal, and then the Delaware River. So my guess was the fort. I wasn't sure, because land was more valuable than money. So right, so you're watching that side, which they have the man-made covers from, this is their point of view, to watch what's coming on downway. They get wind of it. Somebody's running down here, warning them. They're getting ready. And notice the height of it. Notice how they're not huge walls. Notice it's not a tall wall. Because now, these days, the first thing we do is build big walls around everything, around our lives, around our hearts. But back then, the 1700s, the walls needed to be just the right amount. And that was probably tall for back then. The ground slopes one way. So this had to be some sort of like service location or something to, maybe this is, I mean, probably pre-war. I mean, before it was settled. This is probably where I want to find out whether or not there, if there's any, if this is the North or South's property. Now there are stones there. There are stones. So those must have been headstones that go all the way down that way. There's a row here. And then there's a row here. And then these are the ones after the part. But so from here you can see out in either direction. You go that way or this way. So at one point in time, there must have been a landing down there. I can't get that close, but they had to have either boat their docks here, or they were ready to watch out for people coming from either from across the river or downriver. Because I'm sure rowing upriver wasn't any fun. So they could probably see out from either side, up and down the river. So from here, so that I must tell you that they didn't need much space back then. I guess that's why I'm a little bit pissed about those big, huge houses. There would be, if this was a fort, which I think it is, still, they only had room for 1 or 2 people at a time. This was like the modern day version of today's one of the biggest Air Force bases or Army bases. This was it back then. This is how they defended our country. By a spot of land. Probably the amount of a football field and a half. 100 house people to just defend here. This is just one station back then, one before they settled. So here's the line of the unknown soldier. Okay. But look at that. They all pretty much say the same thing. The unknown soldier, Continental Line in the Revolutionary War. So that's the line, okay. So this is where they were staged. This is where they kept. This was their line here. Okay, so this was, obviously those are new, but back there or some of the original ones. You still see some of the headstones back there. I guess it would be a neat reminder. I mean, if you're defending from the Delaware River, I'm not sure if this is a post for that. I haven't figured that out. The trees maybe. But maybe those trees weren't there a couple 100 years ago. But either way, this was important for them to do this. In memory of many unknown soldiers of the Continental Army who died from sickness and exposure while encamped in the fields before the Battle of Trenton and were buried at this spot Christmas Day, 1776. This was put here in 1929. Wow, I wonder what life was like back in 1929. But 1776. Now that dates that. But what happened before that? What happened? That's an afterthought. I'll worry about that. But to have this whole line here, so this guards the whole place. What I couldn't figure out is about that wall over there. I couldn't understand why the wall. There had to have been something there. Maybe wood. Maybe that was a wood fence that would make sense in between those two slots there. So those two slots in there was where they had a wood door that would open up from both sides. So there'd be wood there, there'd be a door there. Okay. Men over there, men across the wall, people at the door. The generals would be where back then? Would they be at this spot to protect the people back? Oh, wait a minute. Here I thought this was an afterthought. Well, it is, but those poles weren't that big. But these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 original colonies right here. You got South Carolina, established May 23rd, 1778. New York was established on July 26, 1788. Georgia became a part of our great country, January 2nd, 1788. Connecticut, January 8th, 1788. New Jersey, December 18th, 1787. Over here, Pennsylvania. That's our state. Yep. December 12th, 1787. And then Delaware, December 7th, 1987. New Hampshire, June 27th, 1788. Massachusetts, February 6th, 1788. And back at Rhode Island. How our country started was simple. It was about land. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about things. It wasn't about possessions. It wasn't about that. This is what it was all about. They're defending their whole region from here. Defending the canal and defending the line. So defending the line was a part of that. So the doors were there. Okay, so on this side, there's a path, but you got the walls. I wouldn't see the walls, which is crazy because I'm standing where people would live and die from. In 1700s, the life wasn't good. There was just no doctors everywhere. There's no cell phones to call somebody. There's no Facebooking somebody to tell them where you at. You're not checking in over here at Washington's Crossing or just north of Washington's Crossing. You ain't pinging here. You know, so seeing it. So we're coming up on the on these look like probably original, guessing, obviously. I'm going with I have no idea where I'm at or what I'm doing. But this is probably part of the original walls that were here. So this would probably be like the front gates, if you will. Front gate. So there may have been, looking at this way, the way it forms around, the way it goes around from the front, there's steps here. And the way it goes around would be, this was the front door, or the front entrance. Obviously there's steps here. So this is from perspectives from the inside view of what you would see, because there's obviously no doors around there. All the stones the same height, even over here, so the doors probably came up pretty tall. So, which is weird. Which I bet you there weren't steps there. How are they bringing in the carts? Maybe it wasn't for that. You think of your home, you think of your own front door, and you think that, yeah. So from this perspective, you have, I'm guessing, your front door to that. Over there. So from there, you're looking out here, so you can see everything. So that would be a front door. I'm guessing there's latches. I gotta look. There's trees here too, so I don't know if the trees were OG or not. Okay. So they did some work to the plaster. So did they leave the lock or the hinges? So no visible hinges. Would be another way of closing the door. Is this the original too? I'm not sure if these would be steps though. Just not sure about that part. So I don't see any, unless it was covered up with plaster. So I'm going to guess that was a door, because the other side of it is here. So you have that pillar. And behind there, all of the tents, all the horses, their feed, their food. This original war wall. Yeah, I said it before. But it swings all the way around. And then here, the same thing. As you saw on that side, way over down that side. This is modern day army right here. This is how you fought off people coming from New York down in Philly. Or maybe not that. What are they fighting over again? They're going to voice over this shit. But it starts here. This is where this gunner's going. This gunner's facing, you have one there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in front. Okay. And this was their view too. From this side. You're sitting in here. And there's your view. You can only point what's in front of you. You can't shoot sideways. You can only shoot one at a time. You can only shoot Don't forget, you got 5 people up here. You're unloading and reloading your muzzles. And back then, you had to get this, fire your round, pour some gunpowder in there, put a piece of ball steel, a tiny one that somebody had to go and make, put that in there, take your rod, shove it down into the gun, pull it out, aim the gun, and fire it and shoot the thing. And you had to do that all from within here. So this was the equivalent to a machine gun. This was the original machine gun right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many bullets did the original guns come out with? Were they 5 gun or 6 gun? I mean, 5 bullet or 6 bullets. I thought it was 6 gun, 6 bullets. So that was all together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12. You have 12 slots for openings to defend yourself about people coming from that side. So I'll go up on the other side. And this is the wall going around. So from here, none of that needs defending. So that was where they would looking over that way. So let me cross over here. I don't want to walk all the way around again. Okay. There's that side. Tents, horses, grain. There'd be the commander over there. There'd be the sergeant. You had to go through everybody else before you get to there. This was full. This place was probably full. You needed the men to defend the land. But this is the view. They'd come out of their tents, get themselves ready. They'd fall in. All the men would line up. Boom, 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 boom. Or just from here. If there's not an attack, if it was a single person, hey. But this wasn't built for a single person going up and down the canal. They must have been preparing for an ambush. I mean, this is where they held their line. This is kind of like where the fights started. I mean, looking around at this place, just seeing how nice it is to walk in the park years and years later, for them dying for our land. It just, it kind of reminds me that we shouldn't be fighting over politics or viruses or economies. And if we just start taking care of ourselves, if we kind of start taking care of each other to the things, we'd all be happier. So, but everybody stay safe. Isn't that what you're supposed to say? But this is what it was about. This is where our country is at now compared to what was going on before. This land is what they fought for. It's why we came here. For a free and democratic society. Not with tyranny. Not somebody calling stuff up and saying, eat Lysol or dip your hands in, I don't know. These parents and these kids don't even let these kids in the canal or touch water because of that. And then we're supposed to put chemicals on top of them too. How fast you want to kill us? But look, you're looking at the view from here. You're looking at the guys that would be here defending this. And today's army is way too much. I didn't think it was about the size of our penis. I thought that was supposed to be done for. Obviously, without picking sides. How else are we in this spot now where our president goes on TV every day. Back then, our president didn't have TV, he didn't have Twitter, he didn't have... He barely had somebody to get on a horse and run it down here. Now we get things done in an instant. Life just, it's what? What are we doing? Why is everybody fighting? For what? When you sit here and you look at the perspective and you look across here and you look what was worth defending back then. Somebody said, let's build a fort. Somebody said, let's discover this country. There's the evolution to this whole entire thing. Where did it come from? Why is it here? This was here for a reason. This is what's important. You know, as I look through here, and I just turned off the TV and the news and all the apps, and I'm thinking to myself, this was high tech. This was defending our country. This is what people died for over there. This is what they fought for over here. They didn't die over there. They died over here. They died right here. They died defending people coming from the north or coming from the south. Mostly the north. That's where they're coming from. The south was covered back then. The north. That's why this sits here. That's why there's a few hundred yards between here, corner here, and that tree line, which is different from over on that side. Over on that side, there's not much of a tree line. Instead of cutting it back like they did on that one, like they did here, this was really used to defend coming from the north. So coming from the north is where this was set up for. And this is why it's here. You hear that? See the birds? See the bees? This was here before America. This was here as we discovered America. This was here because this is what our sons and daughters fought for. You gotta keep it simple. Just gotta take a breath and unplug. What did George Washington mean? What was it before him? Who came over? The Mayflower. Okay, so we're in between Philadelphia and Camden, and New York is just north of there. But the Mayflower, I got to give it to Boston, right? That's how the story goes. If somebody else has another story, tell me. But Boston's, 600 miles from here? So, given the history, as they started out in Boston, started moving their way down, and started getting bigger, and that's how they colonized. So the whole thing is that they slowly went from Boston and they started working their way down. So this was just one stop of many as we took over this country, because we needed more back then. This land was more back then. This is how it all began. This is why they came over from Mayflower, found a new city. Maybe I'll talk about that one day. Maybe I did already. But they come down from Boston and they're coming down this way, and they settled in Philadelphia, just a few miles, it's a 45-minute drive from here, and that's where the capital started. And that's why I love talking about the capital. It's just like my favorite part of where history began. But there would be no Philadelphia if they didn't defend this here until it was signed. So I don't know when it was established. I should find it out. I'm going to look that up. But the fact that this fort was established here as we slowly colonized this country, this was an important part of our history. But it also tells us where we're at today. And we should really kind of take a look at that. But sitting here and seeing these soldiers die, there'd be one They'd be stacked up if it was all full-on war, not like one guy coming down. One guy coming down. No, they don't build forts for one guy coming down off of the canal, going from that way. Not one guy. This was built because they were expecting an ambush. So you had all these guys here, lined up. And then they probably shower in the Delaware over there. But imagine their tents, rows and rows and rows and rows and rows of tents. And rows. It just goes. So we had to cook. Somebody had to take care of the horses as they trained for battle. We're talking about war. This is like the original video game. Why do you think we have guns? Those stupid video games. This is the best video game right here. Can you imagine? Could America like unplug and come out here for 5 minutes and enjoy what's here? Can America just unplug and find out this is the original battle right here? This is what battles were actually made for? I understand modern technology, but come on now. Modern technology began here. You gotta smarten up, kids. This was it. You know that song, "This Land Was Made for You and Me"? Well, this is where it all began. This was a fort on my way down there. New Hope. I don't know. I think I love this part. Because you stop and think about what life was. The trail here. The fact that, all right, there's a trail here. Okay. So, this is the part of the Delaware. There's a flag up there. Okay, it makes sense. The fort was here to defend high and low. Okay. Wish I could turn this camera around. Just wish I'd had more experience doing this before I did this today. So, River's Edge, water. Trenton's down to that side. Okay. And then